frustration of contract occurs when circumstances between the two parties relegate that the contract can no longer be performed and an impossibility of performance is created. Ken Malta is the founder of Mindset Malta. He helps frustrated entrepreneurs find more free time, which allows them to adapt and pivot their business using his proprietary ARC method. He joined me this week to have a conversation about freeing up more time in your business to do the things you really want to do, guaranteed. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Absolutely. So, Ken, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to learn how you help frustrated entrepreneurs get their free time back. Great to see you today, and thank you so very, very, very much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm absolutely super excited about it.
Absolutely. Now, Ken, tell me you spend your days helping entrepreneurs, frustrated entrepreneurs, get their time back, buddy, through your company, Mindset Malta. So I'm wondering if you can tell me about all the great work that you do.
Absolutely, yeah. I've been doing mindset coaching and consulting for many years. Yet, for the most part, a lot of times it was sort of like on the side. You know, it wasn't forefront. It wasn't my main thing that I was doing, but I have been an entrepreneur for over 20 years. So I've been, I started out as an entrepreneur getting into retail. I've had retail shops and then closed retail shops, gone through my challenges as an entrepreneur. And during this period of time, I was also delving into personal development and have been delving into personal development close to 20 years as well. And just continuing to learn. And it was towards the end of 2019 when I really decided I want to get my word out there. I felt I had a strong message to pass on to people in general. At that time, it wasn't really specific. And that's when I founded Mindset Malta. That's when I just basically started a Facebook page where I was going live, doing a few Facebook Lives, getting a message out there for people in general. And then, lo and behold, we all know what happened in 2020, March 2020. And I decided, you know what, this is where I'm going to go full swing. And I decided that I wanted to work with entrepreneurs for a specific reason, really. I just felt that entrepreneurs, are in a leadership role. The business owners, the entrepreneurs are in a leadership role, and they're creating a culture in their businesses, with their leaders within the business, with their employees. And if each entrepreneur understood really and truly how powerful their mindset is and how it's having an effect on every single result, every single experience that they're having, then I felt the more we can teach entrepreneurs about this, because there are many, believe it or not, that don't realize that they're just haphazardly going around, let's say, thinking in any way that they just know. But if we can have an effect on them this way, they can have an effect throughout the whole culture of their business. So one leader at a time, we can start to change the way they're thinking. And what I found with a bit of research was that many entrepreneurs, one of the biggest challenges they have, believe it or not, is time freedom. Now, when you think about that, it's almost a contradiction. What do I mean by that? Most entrepreneurs start their business. When I ask them why they started their business, most of them started their business because they felt they had a good product or service that they wanted to market. They believed they could create a certain amount of income that they wanted. And then on top of that, they wanted to have the time freedom. They wanted to have freedom. Yet what happens to many entrepreneurs is they end up going down a rabbit hole, and now they're working really long hours. And it becomes the norm, because the fact that you work long hours for a short period of time, that happens from time to time. Yet when it becomes the norm, and now it's pretty well every day, you've completely gone contradictory to the values you started out with. And this is where I like to intervene and start to show entrepreneurs how they can actually have time freedom, because ultimately what happens to many of them is that they've been taught in a certain way. So what do I mean by they've been taught in a certain way? Even when you attend an entrepreneurial event, whether it's on stage, whether it's on the internet, whether it's in books, many a time as well, we hear about the fact that entrepreneurs have to struggle, that entrepreneurs have to sacrifice, that entrepreneurs have to suffer. And I get it. And I understand that there are going to be moments that seem like you're suffering or seem that like a sacrifice or a struggle. Yet, over the years, this has been ingrained so powerfully into entrepreneurs' minds, and over and above, not just entrepreneurs' mind, most people's minds, that struggle, sacrifice, and suffering equals success. Because this is what many have been taught. So if an entrepreneur at any point in time during his journey is not suffering, is not sacrificing, is not struggling, all of a sudden something sort of switches in the brain and goes, wait a minute, but I'm successful, supposed to be suffering. It's supposed to be sacrifice. It's supposed to be struggle. And now all of a sudden there's this almost this guilt feeling that right now it's plain sailing. And what I want to change, and the message I want to get out there and shatter is that as an entrepreneur, you don't have to struggle. You don't have to sacrifice. You don't have to be continuously suffering. What if your business could be fun? What if it could be inspiring? What if it could be fulfilling? What if it could be impactful, so that you're having an impact on other people's lives, whether it be as a leader affecting the people in your company and showing them, appreciation, just learning about these things, so that you're creating a culture where people feel they are a part of an organization, that they have purpose, and they really enjoy doing their work. So this is where it goes. When you start to shift the way you think, when you start to understand the process of what goes on in the thinking, now you can actually start to shift that so that it does start to become fun, inspirational, fulfilling, all of these things. And amazingly, when that starts to happen, you actually begin to start to find more time for yourself. So it's not just all about the business.
We all want to have more time for ourselves, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I did an interesting exercise, which I thought was really cool. So, many times with entrepreneurs, I actually say one of the first things you need to do is stop. And they sort of look at me and go, what do you mean by that? Well, again, another thing that has been ingrained in many entrepreneurs, and, attend any event, again, books, all this stuff, it talks about taking action, which is wonderful. At no point am I going to say you don't need to take any action. You absolutely need to take action, without a doubt. Yet I've come to discover over the years that there is a significant difference between taking action and taking inspired action. Now, what do I mean by inspired action? Because there are many who are taking action just being busy, really and truly doing nothing. They just want to feel busy so they don't feel guilty that they're not doing enough, because they've been told over and over that you have to be doing something, that you can't leave your schedule, you can't leave any white space in your schedule. You got to keep going, because if you're not going, someone else is going, and they're going to take a piece of the proverbial pie, and all of these things, which comes from a lack mindset. It doesn't come from a growth mindset. That thinking that people are taking something away from you comes from a lack mindset. So I actually say to them, you know what? Your mind is going all the time, taking action, thinking all the time. There comes a point when you need to learn to actually stop. And why do I want you to stop? I want you to stop so you can actually slow down your mind. I want you to take quiet time, potentially meditate a tiny bit. And I like calling it quiet time, because sometimes people think meditation is something enormous. It really isn't. It's just practice like anything else, but it's quieting your mind. And why do I want you to quiet your mind? Because when you quiet your mind, now you're allowing space for inspiration to actually enter, for new ideas to come in, for solutions to come in. That's why someone after let's say a really challenging day, for instance, and they're trying to figure out a few things, and there's some stuff that went wrong, and they have to find some solutions. And sometimes they're at towards the end of the day, they finally get home, they just pop into the shower, and they're having a shower, and then all of a sudden the solution pops into their head. Why? Or a great idea pops into their head. Why does this happen? Well, this happens because they slowed down enough to allow that inspiration to enter. And when you think about it, when someone decides to actually stop, that is an action in of itself. It's an action to stop. So this has become very important. And when you think about it, like I said, a really cool exercise I did is I said, so if you were to take 1 hour a day, just 1 hour a day to slow down, and just take 1 hour a day for yourself, 1 hour a day, that's the equivalent of 365 hours in a year. Now, 365 hours in a year is the equivalent of, and this is something that blows people's minds away when they hear this, it's the equivalent of 42 8-hour days. And this is how you start to regain your own time.
When we talk about regaining time and sort of finding more time in the day, Ken, I can't help but wonder how you go about the process of quieting your mind, as you mentioned earlier, and how it helps you inspire for new ideas, as you mentioned earlier. Because for me personally, when I take 10 to 15 to an hour to myself, those are some of my best ideas. So my next question to you has to do with, if you were asked to create a commercial on changing mindset, and you were only given 30 seconds in that commercial, what do you think you would focus on as your main message?
My main message would absolutely be appreciation. Take time to appreciate. Take time to appreciate what you have, and at the same time, be eager for more. Because when you take those moments, and I highly suggest this first thing in the morning, take 5 minutes, show appreciation for whatever it is. It could be just the pillow you just slept on. It could be having running water. It could be having a job. It could be appreciation for your family, friends, whatever it is. You take 5 minutes of showing appreciation. You are totally aligned with appreciation. And the frequency of appreciation is very similar to the frequency of love. And if you start your day like that, you are setting the tone for the day. You're opening the doors to receive more things, circumstances, situations, people that you can be appreciative of. It would absolutely be that. I would focus on that.
And Ken, I look at entrepreneurs as the real catalyst to changing business. And what I mean by that is by being an entrepreneur, you have a chance to really diversify the conversation when it comes to opportunities for others and really including others in the workforce and business in general. So tell me, how do you think entrepreneurs can contribute to the conversation of inclusion for all people?
So the way I look at this is really, I think it's really interesting. And the way I look at it is this. And this is where mindset and the metaphysical starts to come in here as well. Because the essence of each and every one of us is exactly the same. Who you truly are, who I truly am, is on the inside. That's why when I work with people, I work a lot from the inside out, because your essence, my essence is exactly the same. Anybody I meet in the street, their essence is exactly the same. So what does this mean? What does this mean? This means that, Kevin, you are no different than I am, and I am no different than you are. I am looking beyond people's behaviors. I am looking beyond all the differences, and I am seeing the same. So if I am seeing the same, this means I now have no issue when it comes to inclusion, because you are exactly the same as me. And this is so powerful, because this means we are all connected. We all affect one another with our words, our actions, all of these things. So this means that I cannot hurt another person without hurting myself. This means I can't be kind to someone else without being kind to myself. Which means this means that when I am including others, that I am actually including myself. And this is the way I love to teach entrepreneurs, because now I'm walking into a meeting and I'm seeing people around a table who are all the same, exactly as me, rather than separating myself from everybody. This takes a bit of doing. It takes a bit of learning. It can be challenging at times, because sometimes we want to judge. Sometimes we want to, express, and doesn't mean that you don't express your opinion, but the judgment part is a huge challenge for many people. But it's a learning process, and you can learn that process. This is how I would approach it, without a doubt, Kevin.
Yeah,
that's how I approach it.
Yeah, absolutely. And building on that point, Ken, I'm wondering your definition of business diversification as it relates to equality and equity in business.
And what's the last part in business?
Equality and equity. How does that relate?
Well, so this ties in exactly really the same. Is that it's interesting. It's just not looking upon anybody, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, many leaders want to look downwards, if you want to call it. It's not a matter of looking downwards at anybody. It's looking at people as equals. Yes, there are different designations within the business. There are different, obviously you have leaders and you have employees. Yet, when we, as human beings, this is the thing. When we start to look at people as human beings and we bring in the emotional intelligence, this is where we can create equality within the business, because now, like I said, we're looking upon others as exactly the same as us. So we understand that, they're not just, an employee is not just a number. They're a human being. They have things going on in their life. And as a leader, I need to be aware. As a good leader, I need to be aware of what's going on in my employees' lives. Because if I have an employee who started with me as an 18-year-old, and they've been with the company now and now are a 30-year-old, that employee has changed over time. Their needs have changed over time. Their challenges have changed over time. I need to be aware of that. And this is what I believe is absolutely vital when it comes to an entrepreneur, is that they need to be in touch with their people so that they understand their people, so that then they can be understood.
You know, Ken, one of the things that came out of the pandemic was more and more people have decided, hey, now is the great time to start a business. But based on your experience, one of the main reasons people want to start a business is they want to be their own boss, right? So keeping that in mind, what would be your piece of advice to a first-time entrepreneur to ensure success over the long haul? I'm curious.
Brilliant question. Really interesting. One of my biggest suggestions would be this: is before actually starting, before actually getting out there, sit down with yourself, being truly honest with yourself, and make a list of what are the most important values for you and what values you're going to carry with you into your business. So for instance, if that value is equality, if it's inclusion, if it's honesty, integrity, authenticity, profitability, all of these things, all of these values, make a list of all of these values. Now, with these values, I'm going to start to create a mission statement of my company and how all these values are going to be included. Now, this is the crucial part now, if you want to be guaranteed success in your business, is that every single decision that's being made in your business is in line with those values. So if you said you were going to be, that honesty was an important value within your business, your decisions are based on honesty. If your value was inclusion, your decisions that you are making with your business are in line with inclusion, and so on and so forth. This, I believe, is absolutely crucial, because by doing this, from the very outcome, you are creating the culture of your business. And the culture of your business is what's going to carry you forward into the future.
Yeah, and talking about the culture of a business, in your opinion, how important is it to have multiple business verticals versus a narrow or defined focus in business?
Well, diversification is always very powerful because, as we know, circumstances, situations change. Change is the only constant. So when we have diversification, when we have variables where we have different outlets of business, we may not be impacted so heavily. If we've put everything into one area only, once that, a particular situation, I mean, we can use COVID as an example. Like for many people, it stopped people in their tracks. I have a promotional merchandise business as well, and that literally got stopped in its tracks because the last thing businesses wanted to talk to me about was, buying something that they were going to give away for free when they were attempting to, keep employees, paying their employees. So, sometimes we can get stopped in our tracks because of situations, circumstances outside of us that we have no control over. What we do have control over is how we respond to them. And if you have a diversification, then your response, may be to emphasize on a certain area more at that point in time because a certain area has been affected or badly affected. So without a doubt, having that diversification is very, very powerful.
And to that point, Ken, I'm wondering your thoughts on your definition of business empowerment and how that relates to having a vision in business.
Yeah, in business empowerment, absolutely. So having a vision, a good leader, a really good leader is a great visionary, is a great visionary. It doesn't mean that that leader knows how to actually carry out every single task to create what he wants to create or she wants to create, yet he has the vision. So now with the vision, he can get good people around him or her so that they can start to carry out those tasks, so that they can start to implement. So a great visionary, a leader with a great vision is going to be very powerful. Yet they have to get the buy-in. A great leader will also get the buy-in from his or her people, meaning that he gets them on board, that they feel like they are a part of it all, that they are a part of the vision that he or she has. So this is absolutely vital when it comes to a leader that is going to be powerful and in a very powerful position, and the leader is going to create parameters. And I love to mention this because as long as I let someone run with it within the parameters, so as a leader I may have given parameters, yet I give you the liberty to work within those parameters the best way that you can work, because people work in different ways. And this is where empowerment comes in, because now I'm allowing my people to actually have a voice, to actually carry out tasks in a way that they feel comfortable with, that they feel is the most efficient for them, and giving them the opportunity to come up with new and better ways to do things. Many leaders think that they have all the answers. Well, they usually don't. They usually don't have all the answers. They often have to have good people around them and be vulnerable. Another very powerful characteristic of a good leader is to be vulnerable enough to say, I don't have the answer for this. What do you suggest? What answers do you have? What possibilities do you see? So now I'm empowering my people and giving them the opportunity to speak their voice.
Yeah, and building on the thought of parameters, you mentioned in your last answer about the qualities of being a good leader. And, one of the things that I will share with you, Ken, is that I have what's called spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. So it simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally. And I have a group of people that work with me from a physical perspective. And I always like to delegate. The delegation of tasks is really something that's important to me. And you said something powerful in your last answer about parameters. So in that context, I'm curious, Ken, to ask you about the delegation of tasks and how it can really elevate the quality of your business if you're willing to delegate and trust the team of people who work for you.
Okay, very, very powerful. Absolutely. Like if as a leader you're not going to be willing to delegate, first of all, this means you're going to be doing everything, which yeah, like it's and this is where the time issue starts to come in, because now you start to say I don't have time for anything except for my business because I'm doing everything. So this is why it's important for a leader to surround himself or herself with good people, So, and once you have these good people, and you have people who are very good at certain tasks, you have people who are very good at other tasks, and finding these right people so that you can actually now, you can actually now convey what your expectations are with them. They can convey back to you what their expectations are. So now this is understood, communication, because sometimes leaders do not communicate well to their people what their expectations are of them. And because of that, messages get distorted. So really good communication. It's agreed upon what the expectations are. The person knows the parameters and what's expected of them. You know that they're powerful in that position, like I said, because people are different. And another word you mentioned that is very, very important is trust. Now I have to be willing to trust that they're going to carry out the tasks that we've discussed that they're going to carry out. And as I begin to trust them, first of all, it puts my mind at rest. And I say, okay, I have someone who's taking care of this. Now, does this mean that we're not going to, we're not going to every so often have a look and see what they're doing, see where we're at, making sure that people are up to par and check? Absolutely. But now as a leader, this is giving me more time for me to be in my zone of genius. This is giving me more time to be the visionary, to create the vision, to continue to create more visions, to see what else is in store, where we're heading, creating the direction. So everybody now knows, this is my job as a leader, everybody knows we're going over there. That's the direction we're headed in, and we're all moving in that direction. So this is where, delegation can be very, very powerful, because it's absolutely adamant. This is why we also need, operating systems within the company, so that when there is a person goes, for some reason someone needs to stop, someone can come right in, and we have systems in place, and they just can carry on from where the other person left off.
And to that point, Ken, I'm wondering your thoughts on the greatest lesson you've learned during your time in business, good, bad, or anything in between.
Wow, there's been tons and tons of lessons, but I'd say one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given is shut up. Shut up and listen. And truly listen to whoever you are engaged with. Be present with whoever you are engaged with. Again, this comes with going so fast. People are interacting with people and not being present, not actively listening to people, not actively listening to what people are saying, because they're telling you a lot when they're talking. And sometimes they're telling you something, but there's even more underneath. This is one of the things that I love about what I do, is that, I let people tell me what's going on and the challenges that they're having. And just with a few questions, now we uncover another piece, and we uncover another piece, and we can finally get to the root of it all as to what's going on. So that I think one of the biggest lessons that I've ever learned is, keep this closed, actively listen, so you can actually listen to what people are saying, so that you can understand them. And once you can understand them, now I can start to be understood as well. But first I need to understand others.
Yeah, I always tell myself the day that I stop learning from other people is the day that I die, Ken, because I really believe that no one person knows everything, and the way we get better as people is by creating an environment where we're open to different perspectives, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the minute, that's why sometimes I get, someone, if I'm going to go on a podcast or something and someone says, oh, we have an expert here or whatever. The thing is this: once someone decides that they're the expert, and I understand the contexts are different and so on and so forth, but the minute I decide I'm an expert is potentially the minute I stop learning, exactly like you're saying. So you're never really the expert. You might have a little more experience in something, and that's why you have a little more wisdom in that. Yet, just like you're saying, I agree with you 100%. There is always more to learn. That's why I make personal development a part and parcel of my day every single day, to at least learn one thing, even if as small as it is, new every single day.
Yeah, one of my personal goals every day, Ken, I tell myself that one of my goals is to get 1% better than I was the day before. Absolutely.
That's it. Perfect. And 1% today, 1% tomorrow, that's a lot of percentage points over a year.
Yeah, it's 365 every year, isn't it?
That's right. Absolutely. And I believe On top of that, honestly, I think there's even more synergy that goes on, and I think there's exponential that happens. So, sometimes it's not 1 + 1 becomes 2. Many times 1 + 1 starts to become 5 because there's exponential learning that starts to come with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Ken, as we wrap this up today, I'm fascinated to ask you if you had 10 minutes with a group of frustrated entrepreneurs who believe that they've tried everything and you were in charge of creating a focus group to get these group of entrepreneurs back on track and really put your arm around their shoulder and say everything's going to be okay. If how do you think you would complete that sentence?
Everything's going to be okay once you realize and decide that everything is already okay, that everything is already perfect. You see, with all the imperfections that there are, everything is perfect as it is. When I mention this, so and I say, listen, everything's perfect the way it is. And you might say to me, Ken, it's not perfect. Kevin, you might say to me, Ken, can't you see that I have this physical, issue that, to me, it's not perfect. But in actual fact, it is absolutely perfect because it was perfect for you to be able to learn the lessons that you're here to learn. Just as I'm here and I have my challenges that are to learn certain things and that's why I'm here. So this is one of the first things that I would start to let them know is this. And I love to tell people this because I really believe it's missing many times. Or people just haven't heard it for a long time. And I actually look someone in the eye and I say to them, listen, you are perfect exactly the way you are. There's nothing to fix. You are exactly where you are meant to be. And you are beautiful the way you are. And many times when I tell people that, they get very, very emotional because they haven't been told in a long time. They've been told over and over of the things that they need to fix, and this needs to be taken care of. And this, when in actual fact, in all the imperfections, like I'm saying, everything is absolutely perfect already. And trusting that, it comes back to that. It's coming back to trusting that. And now, with this group, with this focus group, now that we know that everything is perfect and that a huge weight has been lifted off your shoulders, let's see what behaviors, what values we can start to shift and what behaviors we can start to shift so that we can get you going in the direction that you want to truly start to go.
Yeah, I always tell myself, Ken, that everyone's portrait of success is different, isn't it?
Absolutely. The road to success is paved in many different ways. It's already paved in gold. It's there, and there are many different roads to it. And this is really interesting when it comes to teachers, because if you're listening to a teacher and there's a teacher that tells you that this is the only way, that's the time when you need to run away from that teacher. And I say this with the utmost respect, because there isn't just one way. I might teach you a way that I believe has worked for me, and I want to share that with you. That doesn't mean that it's the only way. It's one way. It has worked for me, and I'm willing to share it with you. Now, you can take it and run with it, or you might say, Ken, you know what? It doesn't resonate with me. That is perfectly fine. Don't take it, throw it away, find a different way.
Yeah, and my final question for you today has to do with expectations, both for yourself in terms of your own personal legacy, both personally and professionally, and when it relates to expectations, because I always say you can't meet anybody else's expectations until you meet your own, because everyone's standard of excellence is different, as we just said. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on setting expectations in business and your own personal legacy, and how you want that to be defined.
Fantastic. So the way I look at it is this. This is sort of like we can tie it in with goal setting, and having the expectations of the achievements that you want to achieve. I truly believe that they are required. They are required because if you want to move towards something, you got to know what you're moving towards. Absolutely. What is imperative, though, is this. And it's okay to have big ones. Go ahead, have big ones, as long as you have interim ones, smaller ones in between, so that it's not so far away. Yet the key here, as well as this, is not being attached to the outcome. So you have your expectations, you know where you want to go, you know the direction that you're going, not being too attached to it. What do I mean by that? Because if you're attached to you being successful when you reach that outcome, then what's going to happen in between? Are you going to be happy in between, or are you going to be upset in between? So again, as much of a cliche as it is, it's all about the journey. It's all about the moments. It's all about enjoying the moments, having purpose in those moments. So I like to talk about the fact that right now, my purpose in life, right now, is this conversation I'm having with you, Kevin. That's my purpose in life. And when I finish from here and I move on to the next task, that will be my next purpose in life. And then I move on to the next task, and that will be my purpose in life. And I'm joyful and I'm enjoying it and having fun and the fulfillment. Why? Because if I go from one moment to the other, having fun, being inspired, being fulfilled, having impact, that means I'm going to go throughout my lifetime being that way. So I don't have to arrive at the goal to then go, okay, now I've arrived, now I'm happy, because that'll never happen. Because once you arrive, there's going to be something else something else you want to achieve. It's just human nature that's what's going to happen. So be happy now, appreciate now, be eager for more, have the direction that you want to go, and that's going to create a lot of success.
Absolutely. And finally, Ken, tell me, if people want to get connected with you, buddy, what's the best way they can do that?
Well, there's two ways I'm going to suggest. One is simply they can just send me an email, and they can send it to coachmenowken@gmail.com. Or what I'd like to offer your listeners as well is that they can get a free consumer educational guide if they simply go to successfulentrepreneur.now.com, and they can get a free a free consumer educational guide, how to step into the magic of the successful entrepreneur now. All they have to do is go to successfulentrepreneur.now.com.
Fabulous, Ken. I have to tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation about entrepreneurs and helping frustrated entrepreneurs get on the right path to success. Your work in the space and talent, by behalf, is most appreciated, buddy. And I want to thank you for being here today.
It's been my absolute pleasure. Anytime.